Hello everyone, my name is Dr. Nikhil Harikrishnan, lecturer, Department of Conservative Dentistry and Endodontics, Yenepoya Dental College. Today we will be talking about a concept called pulpal diseases. So the specific learning objectives are to understand the importance of dental pulp, to diagnose the various pulpal diseases and to correlate the various signs and symptoms. At the same time, we will be able to differentiate among the various pulpal diseases. So coming to the introduction, we know that pulp is a formative organ of the tooth and it responds to hot and cold stimuli through the perception of pain. It is a highly resistant organ and its resistance depends on various parameters such as the age, the nutritional capabilities and the inflammatory condition of the pulp. Because of this variability, it has led to remark that some pulps will die if you look crossly at them, while the others can't be killed with an axe. So coming to the causes of pulpal injury, it can be broadly classified as a physical, chemical and the bacterial causes. So firstly, coming to the physical, it can be again subclassified as a mechanical causes starting from trauma because of any contact sports or because of any kind of iatrogenic errors. Coming to the pathological wear, it can be adhesion or abrasion, cracked tooth syndrome and barometric changes, that is the change in pressure also called as barodontalgia. Next, coming to the thermal causes. These are heat from cavity preparation because of the low speed or high speed hand pieces, the exothermic heat from the setting of the cement, the conduction of heat through deep fillings without a protected base, and then frictional heat that causes during finishing and polishing. Next comes the electric causes, that is the galvanic current wherein dissimilar metallic fillings are present adjacent to each other. Next, coming to chemical causes, that is because of any kind of dental materials, that is phosphoric acid or acrylic monomers, or at the same time some kind of non-caries lesions, that is erosion from the acids. Lastly, coming to the bacterial causes, that is the toxins associated with caries or either some kind of direct invasion of the bacteria into the pulp via caries or trauma. The bacterial colonization in this causes blood-borne microorganism that is also called as anachoresis. Next, coming to the classification, it can be classified clinically as pulpitis, that is again subdivided as reversible pulpitis. In case the patient is having pain, it's called as symptomatic, and if the patient does not have any pain or sensitivity, it can be called as asymptomatic. At the same time, irreversible pulpitis is again subclassified as acute or chronic. If the patient is abnormally responsive to cold and abnormally responsive to heat, is acute irreversible pulpitis. At the same time, chronic or a long-standing lesion in irreversible pulpitis means an asymptomatic with pulpal exposure, or it can be hyperplastic pulpitis, or it can be called an internal resorption. Next, coming to the pulpal degeneration, which cannot be seen clinically, but however it can be called as calcific degeneration in radiographic changes or others, that is either histopathological changes. Next, coming to pulpal necrosis. So we will be discussing each one by one. First one is reversible pulpitis. Is defined as a mild to moderate inflammation condition of the pulp caused by noxious stimuli in which the pulp is able to return to its uninflamed state once the stimuli is removed. Coming to the histopathology, we can see that in reversible pulpitis, it can range from mild hyperemia, that is increase in the blood vessels, to mild to moderate inflammatory conditions. Next, coming to the symptoms, it's characterized by sharp shooting pain but only for a moment. So often it's brought about by cold beverages or cold food rather than hot food. It does not occur spontaneously. However, once the nauseous stimuli is removed, the patient does not have any pain later on. Coming to the treatment, always prevention is better than cure. That means we will have to prevent the development of caries in the first place, and in case of gingival recession or in such cases we can go for desensitization, cavity varnish and proper protective base can be given before the fillings, and care in cavity preparation is always recommended as well as polishing. Coming to the prognosis of the pulp, in these cases is always favorable if the irritant is removed early on, otherwise it can develop into pulpal necrosis or irreversible pulpitis. So speaking of irreversible pulpitis, it is a persistent inflammatory condition of the pulp that is either symptomatic or asymptomatic caused by a noxious stimuli. So coming to the histopathology, in these cases, it has chronic and acute inflammatory stages in pulp, and even it has a long-standing noxious stimuli such as caries. So coming to the symptoms, pain continues after the removal of the cause. Patient gives history of night pain, and change of position can often aggravate the pain. The pain can be referred to the adjacent tooth, and patient is unable to localize from which tooth the pain is coming from. Next, coming to the diagnosis, affected pulp is usually greyish in color and the surface of the pulp eroded, and an odor of decomposition is always present. Probing, on the other hand, is less painful. Coming to the treatment, consists of complete removal of the pulp or pulpectomy, followed by placement of an intracanal medicament, and often followed by a proper root canal obturation. The prognosis is always favorable if the proper treatment has been done, and proper endodontic therapy and restoration is also being considered. Coming to the chronic hyperplastic pulpitis or pulp polyp. It is a productive pulpal inflammation due to an extensive exposure of the caries in a young patient. So, it usually is characterized by granulation tissue often covered with an epithelium, which is resulting from a long-standing low-grade irritation. Histopathology, we can see that the surface of the pulp polyp is usually covered by a stratified squamous epithelium, underneath which it contains granulation tissue. Symptoms is usually the patient is symptomatic. When it comes to symptoms, the chronic hyperplastic pulpitis is usually symptomless, and only during mastication do the patient feel some kind of discomfort. Coming to diagnostic, it is seen in children and young adults and appears as a fleshy reddish pulpal mass. It may be able to interfere with the comfortable closure of the mouth, and in case sometimes can lead to bleeding of the tissue. The treatment, however, is redirected towards the extirpation of this said pulp and a proper endodontic therapy. The prognosis for the pulp is unfavorable. However, the prognosis for the tooth is favorable after proper treatment and adequate restoration. Next, coming to internal resorption. It is an idiopathic, slow or fast progressive resorptive process wherein the dentine is resorbed in the pulp chamber or the root canal of the tooth. Unlike in caries, the majority of the internal resorption is because of the osteoclastic activity. It is characterized by a lacunae which is filled by osteoid tissue. This is an attempt by the body to repair at the site. The cause is usually not known, but however, majority of the patients do have a history of trauma in related to the tooth. Coming to the symptoms, internal resorption in the root of a tooth is often asymptomatic. Sometimes in the crown of the tooth, because of the so said internal resorption, a pink spot or a reddish area is often manifested. Coming to the diagnosis, it may affect either the crown of the root or the root of the tooth, and mostly easily recognizable is seen in the maxillary anterior. Coming to the treatment, proper extirpation of the pulp followed by a routine endodontic treatment is always preferred. The prognosis is best before the perforation has happened. In case of a perforation has already happened, the prognosis goes down to guarded. Next, coming to pulpal degeneration. Although degeneration is not seen clinically, we need other kinds of tests such as either radiographic diagnosis or histopathological changes to mention that pulp degeneration has occurred. So, first coming to calcific degeneration, that is a part of the pulpal tissue is replaced by calcific material. This calcification may either occur within the pulp chamber or root canals in the form of pulp stone or denticles. Next comes the atrophic degeneration, that is usually observed histopathologically, wherein fewer stellate cells are present or intercellular fluid is increased. It is seen in older patients, and the pulp tissue tends to be less sensitive towards the vitality tests. Next comes fibrous degeneration, that is characterized by the replacement of the cellular elements by fibrous connective tissue. Once we can see that the characteristic appearance of a leathery fiber is seen. Majority of the times the patient is asymptomatic in these cases. Lastly, coming to the necrosis of the pulp, essentially means the death of the pulp. It may be partial or total depending on what part of the pulp is involved. The causes might be some kind of noxious stimuli that can range from caries, trauma or even chemical irritation that can lead to the death of the pulp. Symptoms, there are no painful symptoms as such. However, the discoloration of the tooth is the first indication that the tooth has undergone necrosis or the pulp is dead. Coming to the diagnosis, radiograph usually sees a large cavity or a filling, an open approach to the root canal and a thickening of the few periodontal ligament. Few patients have also give a history of severe pain that lasts for few minutes to few hours, following which the cessation of the pain is there. The treatment for this consists of complete removal of the pulp and followed by obturation of the root canals. So, the prognosis of the tooth is always favorable in these conditions if the proper root canal therapy is instituted. So coming to the conclusion, the value of the pulp as an integral part of the tooth, both anatomical and the function, should be recognized, and every effort must be made to conserve it. Proper intervention at the proper time and proper treatment may provide good prognosis for the tooth as well as good quality of life for the patient. Thank you everyone.